So welcome everybody. Let me share my screen so that you get the visuals. Okay, let me remove that. Okay. Okay, and I shall line up my slideshow and off we go. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for being here. And I know some of you have been on this journey with us for a while because you participated in our crowdfunding campaign, which I'm going to talk about as part of this. So I will just give you, there is going to be a sort of a run into where we're at, and I'll go over the project for those people who don't know anything about it and are new to it. But this is an update talk about the Brest-Litovsk or the Brisk Jewish Cemetery Memorial that we are currently working on. So just as an introduction to those of you who are new to the Together Plan, we are a UK-based charity working with Jewish communities in Belarus, supporting initiatives that support revival and sustainability. And our work is focused on Jewish cultural heritage, where we work together to tell the story of the past to build a safe and sustainable future, because there is no future without the past. And we're currently focusing our efforts in Belarus. We're a member of an organisation called the AEPJ, the European Association for the Preservation and Promotion of Jewish Heritage and Culture. They're based in Barcelona, and they are leading a network of heritage practitioners, historians, museums, NGOs, all working together to build the European route of Jewish heritage, which is one of the cultural routes of the Council of Europe, which you can look up as the Cultural Routes Programme. And we are working specifically on the Belarus element of that route. Now, our partners with our partners in everything we do, but specifically also on this project are, along with us, are the Jewish Tapestry Project in America, which is basically us in the United States. As you can see here, it's the same logo, just different name. Dialogue, very, very old established NGO in Belarus. They're one of our partners on the ground, and the Jewish Religious Union of Belarus. And Artur, who is co-founder of the Together Plan, is also chairman of both of these organizations. So really, we are one big family. Now, just to orientate ourselves, this is an old map showing Poland as it was, the bit of Poland that got sort of carved up and given to the Soviet Union in the war, or in 1939, which now forms the sort of more or less the modern day borders of Belarus. So Minsk is here. It was very, very close to the Polish border back in the day, is now it's in the center of modern day Belarus. And this is Brest, where this project is that we're working on at the moment, as you can see here. It is the birthplace of Menachem Begin. Brest is also the home of the rabbinic dynasty, the Soloveitchiks. It's a very significant Jewish part of the world.
Yeah.
And here is modern day Belarus, so you can orientate yourself on a modern day map. So here it is, Brest, Minsk now in the center of the country, and we have Russia over here, Ukraine down here, Slovakia is down here, but it's not bordering, but you can orientate yourselves if you know where Slovakia and Hungary are. Poland over here, Lithuania and Latvia, so Belarus, which is a landlocked country. So I'm going to talk to you about the road so far and the road ahead for this project. And you will, by the end of this, really understand where we're at. So in 2021, we signed an exclusive agreement to design and build a memorial with a deadline for that agreement ending in 2024. We sorted the gravestones that we had in our care, and that was completed in 2021. And then we photographed those gravestones in 2021. We then went through a process of translating everything we could off of from the photographs, and a catalogue was created in 2022. The design of a memorial was commissioned and completed in 2023. It was approved, that memorial design was approved by the Brest authorities in 2023. And then the building applications were submitted and approved at the end of 2023. We then ran a crowdfunding campaign. Actually, what I haven't put in here is that we then did a massive piece of work to try and connect people who had ancestry in Brest. That was a really huge piece of work, and I sort of nod here to Jewish Jen, who helped us with that. And then we invited those people to join us in a crowdfunding campaign, along with other people who've heard about what we were doing. And that was initiated in March 2024. We then ran the campaign on the 19th and 20th of May in 2024. We raised money that we needed according to the budget that we had, and construction commenced in October of last year. So all of that has been done. So everything that you can see here has been done. So now in white is to be done. So we are now about to launch a final fundraising push, because we, as you will find out in a minute, there's a little bit more we need to raise. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And construction, if all goes to plan, construction is due to complete this summer. So I'm just going to show you the memorial. Some of you have seen it, but some of you haven't. So this was designed by Brad Goldberg. He is an American artist and designer. And this is what the design is. It looks like. These are his mock-up visuals. As you can see here, there's these little niches, benches where people will be able to sit when you enter into this space. And this is an actual mound. It's actually going to be like a hill where the gravestones will come back to the territory of the cemetery. Now this is a postcard of what the cemetery used to look like. It was a very, very well established cemetery. And another colorized version of an image here of the Brest-Litovsk cemetery. But in 2013, our tour sent me this photograph, and I couldn't quite make sense of what I was seeing. And I said, I don't know what you're sending me. And he said, well, this is the remnants of gravestones that once stood in the Brest cemetery. And I couldn't quite work it out, so I took myself there the following year. And indeed, there was this pile of broken gravestones, and more here you can see around in the background, that had been found and returned. They were all being stored under the open air arches of the Brest fortress, very, very big fortress in the town. While I was there in 2014, we got a phone call from a construction site who were digging the foundations for a supermarket, and said, we think we may have found some Jewish gravestones. We went over there, and these are the photographs that I took. And indeed, they had found, unearthed literally, an enormous number of the gravestones, which we then arranged to have taken to the others at the arches of the Brest fortress. And here you can see another one of my images of the stones. Now, we did a little campaign at that point in time after I'd seen them in 2014, and we raised a little bit of money to have a fence installed so that people could stop people from throwing their rubbish on the gravestones, and we could then, or the local community could then work out how many were there and put some order to this, which is what you are seeing here. Now, this is what the cemetery looks like today. So it is a running track. There is no sign at all to show that this was once a Jewish cemetery. It still is a Jewish cemetery because the bodies are still buried there. But you would never know that there was anything there. This is on the far sort of south side of where that running track is. On the other side, if you can see where my cursor is, on the other side of this fence is where that running track is. Now, this piece of land is also land that was part of the cemetery, but it's just shrubland. And this is what we negotiated with the local municipality, that if we could fundraise, would they allow us to build here? And they agreed. This is a member of the Brest community. As you can see here, this is in that shrubland. You can still see a couple of the gravestones in the grass, but really, there's very few. Now, we did a lot of work to get this into the news. There are a number of media articles about this, which you can get to on our website. But I also, tomorrow, will be sending out this recording, and I'll also be sending links to the media articles, which you can read at your leisure if you want to. But here you can see we got an article into the Times. And here you can see all of the gravestones are no longer in a nice orderly fashion, because at the end of 2019 they were all moved. We knew nothing about this, and Artur went to great lengths to find them, and they'd all been moved very unkindly to a warehouse outside of Brest. And many had been broken again along the way, which was terribly sad. I flew myself to Belarus in early 2020, just before the COVID pandemic hit, and took these photographs because I wanted to see the condition of them and where they had been put, and it was heartbreaking. Here you can see me standing amongst them, and we really sort of got set back at this point, but we knew we had to do something about this. But we then managed to connect to a donor in America who said that he would support us in, again, sorting them out and doing the photography and creating the catalogue. So here you can see Artur with our team working with them again to sort them out and to see what condition they were in. And we were able to then start all over again. And here they are putting together the photography, or doing the photography for the catalogue. As you can see, there are an enormous number of pieces which are just tiny, which we will be using as part of the new construction site, which I'll tell you about in a moment. So this is another visual of what we anticipate it's going to end up looking like. People will be able to walk among the gravestones. This is going to be completely open for people to walk around. And here's another visual. Now, along the tops of these walls, it was designed as a sort of an embrace, sort of bringing these gravestones home to a safe space, as if in a hug. And along the tops of these walls, those very small pieces will be featured in a mosaic. So that is coming. And as you can see here, there will be the future project is to have a forest of trees around it. So it's almost like an eye to the sky. Now, this was our crowdfunding campaign that took place last year on the 19th and 20th of May. It was a 48-hour campaign, and the reason it's got BNI Chipping Barnet here is because it was only ever meant to be a crowdfunding campaign where all of us were going to have those hours to reach out to our friends and family to ask them to sponsor this campaign. But I am a member of a business networking group. I have been for 11 years. And they got on board. I told them about it. They said, we want to help you. Let's do a campaign within the campaign. And they came up with pedaling an exercise bike for 36 hours within the 48 hours. So this was me starting off the ride, and we kept this bike pedaling for 36 hours. This is, you can see here, this is the Together Plan office at the end of my garden, and this is my house. So it nearly killed me, and I'm not going to lie, it was a lot of work, and I didn't sleep for 36 hours. But, and these are some of the members of my business networking group who came and cycled this bike, and some of them through the night, as you can see here and here. Um, I would like to add here that a lot of these people are not Jewish, but they have known me and they know what I do, and have followed me and supported me for the 11 years that I've been a member of this group. So they really got behind us. And we hit the target. So this was the moment that we hit the target. I would like to say here that this is the total amount of the project since we began the project, because it was a match-funded campaign. So some of the money had already been committed to the project in terms of the photography and the cataloguing, the pledged donation that we had from our donor, and the balance that we were raising was to do the next phase, which is the construction. Meanwhile, in Minsk, they were also cycling a bike in those 36 hours. So this is the team in Minsk. I believe Sonia and Vasily are on here with us, and I know Artur is, because he's going to be speaking to you in a moment. So it was incredibly exciting for them too, as they kept their bike going. And it really was a miraculous pull together. So I'm going to now pass over to Artur, who is going to tell you what happened next.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you, Deborah. Now more to exciting update. Here you can see the office of the Jewish Religious Union, where we have an ongoing work with the Brest project, and we consult almost on everyday basis. And on the right, you can see it's me, and on the left, it's our basically coordinator in Brest, who is a very, very experienced constructor and engineer and architect. And he is overseeing the construction phase in Brest. He comes to Minsk occasionally. We go to Brest from time to time to keep an eye on the construction. So this is basically everyday sort of weekdays when we look at the drawings, we look at the technical documentation, we discuss every detail that takes place during the construction. Obviously, there are some issues, some difficulties, some construction details some obstacles that we have to overcome. I mean, I never thought that construction would be so not difficult, but it would take up a lot of time, and there are a lot of details. Especially, this is a very unique project and a unique construction, and this is the first, I would probably say, in Europe, such memorial. A memorial that is basically made out of Jewish headstones, as we call it, lapidarium in the language. This is the memorial made from stones, and nothing like this exists neither in Eastern Europe or, I believe, in Western Europe. There are few lapidariums in Poland that I saw, but this is simply a wall constructed from the headstones and nothing else in that. Now, Brest is quite unique. And it was very exciting to start the works in October last year in 2024. And as Deborah mentioned, we started from removing the trees from the area and replanting the trees. Trees will be quite an interesting concept, because an idea is to have the forest around the mount, around the memorial, which is going to cover the memorial. There are some examples of Jewish cemeteries, currently old cemeteries, that are in the forests in Belarus, and it's quite interesting effect, and it's quite sort of protected, I would say. So the idea behind the forest, behind planting many trees in the future, is for the memorial, for the headstones to be protected. So we've started in October from replanting the trees, from working in the area. Here you can see that the works have started during still sort of a dry period. Then we moved into the winter. We never stopped even during the snow. We're working very closely with a local municipality, and they have their involvement. It's basically a collaborative project between the Together Plan, the partners of the Together Plan, and the municipality. They are playing their part. Here you can see we've started forming the walls around the mount, which is an embrace in the project, which is going to be protecting. Here seeing the metal works as well. It's a huge two walls. Each wall is around 90 meters long on both sides, which will be protecting, in a way, will be protecting the mount, protecting the headstones. So this is, again, this is the continuation of this. This is a concrete work. There's a cement. There are several stages of making these walls, including the board forming process, which is the walls you can see here. They have a special sort of a drawing, special effect on the sides, which is made. They look like it's a board. They look like it's a wooden board, and for that reason, we had to fully complete. You will see in the next slide. We had fully cover the walls. Yeah, you can see here to make a form out of the boards to have that type of a design, which is quite. And you can see the snow here, by the way. Yeah, so the works didn't stop in snow. We fortunately had a very, very, very mild winter this year. It's only now gets to -11, but during the past couple of months, we had quite good weather, if you can say that. It was something around 0 and plus few degrees. Here you can see completely, you know, we're forming one of the walls. We're forming formating the walls with a board, forming the mound yeah, you can see here we've started finishing the walls and forming the mound inside, which is going to be around 2.5 to 3 meters high. And then it's going to be gradually going down towards the walls. That's going to be the area which is we're basically with a collaboration with the government. We are doing our piece inside, and government is doing the landscaping and the roads and the pavement around the memorial, which is the part that is government is involved in. So here you can see again the construction. You can see the niches that Deborah has mentioned previously and showed you on the mock-ups. This is the niches for the benches. Benches also not going to be just a simple bench. It's going to be made out of a concrete, so people can sit down and people can relax and have the moment of thinking at that place. Again, the construction was also quite unique because we haven't digged inside of the ground. All the works are happening on top, so we are bringing the earth. So we are bringing and constructing without going down into the ground, because again, as Deborah said, it's a cemetery. It's still a cemetery because we have bodies buried there. So we had to be very careful. And we do have a support from Atra Kaddish and the authorities, Jewish authorities that deal with rebels, just in case. But so far, so good. We managed to do everything, and we didn't need any thing from their side in support, and we didn't find any bones. You'll see now a short film, a short film that will show you, that the campaign film that will show you at the end how the construction is going, and I will comment after the film as well.
So just to say, before I show it, that some of you will have seen this film before, because it was the film that we ran for the crowdfunding campaign, but we have updated it. So as Artur said, you will now see the new developments.
Want to see what they're building?
Yeah, so this is the photo from the drone. Just to give you an idea that we had to get a special permission from the Ministry of Defense to get to fly the drone. It took us a week to get the permission, then another couple of days to agree on the footage. So it wasn't that straightforward, as you know, everything in the world these days. And you have mentioned in the beginning about sort of the politics. But we have been through a lot of politics for the many years, so we are kind of educated in this, and we know our way. So this is, oh, by the way, you can see the railway track on the left, and this is quite interesting because the Jews in Brest were all taking from the ghetto. They're all taking by trains to Bronna Agora and killed there. So I think it's quite significant that this memorial is going to be constructed near the railway track. And if you take a look, if you glance, you can see in the right corner there is a building with a green roof. And this is the building. This is where cemetery began, and it's ended basically where we are constructing basically the fence the trees and the fence that you see on the left corner. This is how big the cemetery was. There was around 40,000 graves in that cemetery. So you can imagine how big the cemetery was, and you can see from what you see is what has been done to it. So I think this is a very significant and important project. I always say this is justice, and justice is we are we're doing the very important thing, and we're bringing the headstones to the place where they belong. Again, we move forward now. Those two walls are already placed and ready, and now we are working on the mount. We're bringing the earth for the mount, and we're going to be working on the pathways. We have already started those works. We had a little pause because of the cold weather for a couple of days, but Brest is a bit more so south and a location, and the weather is warmer than in Minsk. So we are going to be continuing our works in a couple of days. And now I'm going to hand over to Deborah.
Thanks, Artur. One thing that you didn't say is that you're not allowed to fly drones in Belarus, which is
No,
why we got the.
absolutely. No, absolutely. You're not allowed to fly drones anywhere around our area these days, neither, Ukraine, Russia, or Belarus. So it's quite difficult to get the permission. But we got it, as you can see, and we were able to show you the construction from a flying point. So you can get the idea of how big it is. Actually, it's when you look it from the ground, it seems big, but you can't really imagine how big it is. But when you look it from the top, from a high up, it's really amazing. It's really something unusual.
Yeah, so I think we were extremely lucky and we are lucky to have the support of the Brest government, and even the military. So there you go. As I said before, the construction is due to complete in the summer of 2025, but we need a final push. Now, the reason we need a final push is because for many reasons, and Artur, you may want to join me here, but when we originally set the budget, it was a budget. But as you've all mentioned, politics and geopolitics is complex, particularly in this part of the world, or in that part of the world, because I'm in the UK, but Artur is in Belarus. And there are sanctions, and there's been inflation, there have been price hikes, there's been difficulty getting certain materials. So the challenges have been enormous. And we now know that we do need to raise a little bit more money. Now, we are setting out to raise £50,000 more pounds, and we believe we can do this. And what we're doing is we're launching a final push fundraiser, which is a walkathon, which is basically it's a big sponsored walk that everybody can get involved in, and you can sign up to do it from wherever you are in the world. You sign up and you create your own page, and you send it out to your friends and family. The good thing is that we don't have to do it in 36 hours this time. Our deadline is June the 8th. So between March the 1st, which is when the campaign's going to launch, so in another couple of weeks, we're just setting up the page now, both pages, because one is on the Together Plans page and the other fundraising is in America. So anyone in the States who wants to do it can do it through Jewish Tapestry Project, our 501c3. So there will be 2 entry points to sign up. And you can either set up a team, so you could have a little family team, or you could have a group of colleagues doing it. I've got a team with Artur and Sonia and Vasily, who are our team in Minsk. So while I'm going to be walking in the UK on June the 8th, they're going to be walking through the streets of Brest. And actually on the day, they will be posting to our social media channels images of Jewish Brest, and they're going to end up at the cemetery site, at the site of the memorial. So there'll be lots for you to look at. Meanwhile, I'll be posting from London because I'm going to be walking a marathon in London. So I'm going to start training shortly. So as I said, people can get involved from wherever they are in the world, and I know many of you are in different parts of the world, and I know several people who are going to be watching this recording this week are also in other parts of the world, and some of them are in Australia, some of them are in Canada. So we are very widely dispersed, but together, if we all raise a little bit, that adds up to a lot. Now this was me, just to prove that I can do this. This was 10 years ago, so I do have to start training. This was me walking a marathon in Minsk. We started in an area called Yama, which means a pit. It was an area in the Minsk ghetto where 5,000 Jews were shot in 1942. It was Purim. And then we walked a route around Minsk, and we ended up here, which is Trostinets, which is the site of a death camp. It actually wasn't a death camp where people stayed in. They either arrived to be shot or arrived already having been shot. This is a very imposing, significant memorial, as you can see. And we invited some of the survivors of the Minsk ghetto who were still with us, and some of them still are, to walk the last part of the marathon with us. And we also had Ambassador Bruce Bucknell, who was then the British ambassador in Belarus, who also joined us for the last part of the walk. So we did it then, and we're going to do it again. And just to show you, there was so much hype around it that it even got onto Belarus television news. So here you go. Here's a few minutes of me being interviewed for Belarus television.
Километры памяти прямо из Лондона. Английский пеший марафон в эти минуты завершается в Минске. 42 километра спортивным шагом от мемориального комплекса Яма до Тростенца. Жители британской столицы и представители благотворительной организации такую дистанцию идут впервые. А на финише все они станут участниками митинга «Реквиема» в честь 70-й годовщины победы в Великой Отечественной войне.
Усталость совсем не чувствуется, ведь марафон не беговой. Ходьбу выбрали, потому что это дает возможность участвовать всем желающим. В Англии марафонцами становятся и те, кому за 90. Это очень заряжает энергией, хорошим настроением и еще дополнительная возможность посмотреть достопримечательности.
Мы начали марафон сегодня утром, и несмотря на то, что нас немного, люди интересуются, чем мы занимаемся. К нам уже присоединилось несколько участников. То есть таким образом мы привлекаем внимание к вопросам здорового образа жизни, военной истории, повышаем уровень толерантности. И, естественно, это развитие белорусско-английских дружеских связей.
В Англии популярность пеших марафонов растет с каждым годом. У британцев отличная техника спортивной ходьбы и выносливость. Они с легкостью преодолевают километры по солнечному Минску, надеясь приобщить к этому занятию белорусов и пригласить их на аналогичный марафон в Лондоне.
So yes, we'll be going again, but of course you don't have to be walking a marathon. You can set your own distance and space, but we'll go on to that in a minute. So how does this memorial play a pivotal role in Jewish history? Well, it will put the cemetery back on the map. It'll give the functioning community a place to commemorate those who have gone before them. It will give Jews from Brest living in the diaspora a place to visit in memory of their ancestors. It'll play a major part on the heritage route to tell the story of the Jews from Brest. It restores history and memory, and it plays a vital role in Holocaust education and helps to understand the rise of Zionism, which led to the establishment of the State of Israel. Because this is a really significant story, and it talks about through this memorial we're bringing into focus some real hidden history to the rest of the world and also to the communities in Belarus. So the importance and value of cultural heritage cannot be overstated, and our campaign aims to build a heritage site of vital importance to European civil society. And under the Council of Europe's Framework Convention on the Value of Cultural Heritage for Society, or something that is called the Faro Convention, which is the theory behind the work that we do, cultural heritage represents a basis to develop dialogue, cooperation, democratic debate and participation, as well as openness between cultures. And boy, do we need that right now. Now, I just want to introduce you to Pavel. Pavel is an 18-year-old boy. He was born blind. He is blind, and he lives in Minsk, but he heard about the work that we were doing in Brest. One of his hobbies is to learn more about cultural heritage. He's very interested in history, and he asked us if he could travel to Brest and make a little film. So just to give you an idea, it's about 4.5 hours by road to get to Brest from Minsk, and then another 4.5 hours back. So, and he did this fairly recently. So in the bitter cold, this little film was made. And I think it's really important because it shows the impact of this project on people in the country.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Павел Петручук, и сегодня я проведу репортаж о уникальном проекте. Это лапидарий, который находится на месте еврейского кладбища в городе Бресте, который, к сожалению, был разграблен во время Второй мировой войны, во время гонений на евреев, во время Холокоста. Однако прошло время, и справедливость должна восторжествовать, и благодаря различным неравнодушным людям этот проект восстанавливается. И сейчас я вам пойду покажу, что планируется и как что выглядит. Я нахожусь на месте, где будет находиться сам лапидарий. Он будет представлять из себя 2 ладони, выполненных из бетона под старину, длиной 85 метров, высотой 1 метр. Эти ладони символизируют поддержку еврейского населения, поддержку родственников и всех, кто пострадал от Холокоста и от всех страшных событий, которые происходили с евреями в Бресте и по всему миру. Строительство лапидария планировалось еще 20 лет назад, однако из-за отсутствия финансирования и других факторов стройка все перемещалась. В 2021 году все поняли важность проекта, были достигнуты определенные договоренности с местными властями, с областными и республиканскими властями, да, и, слава богу, началась стройка, и сейчас, уже, конечно, правда, 24 год, но мы можем наблюдать начало строительства. А, как говорится, начало – это уже 50% успеха. И надеемся, что все будет идти в таком темпе. Вот, надеемся к апрелю, к маю уже открыть этот лапидарий. А вот, собственно, исторический, так сказать, материал, историческое доказательство, вот, собственно, ради чего все это затевалось. Это плиты, мацевы. Вот сейчас у меня есть уникальная возможность к ним прикоснуться. Они достаточно тяжелые, то есть вес от 70 до 200 килограмм. И хочется сказать, что их возраст самый минимальный – это 90 лет. И, ну, как бы и старше, понятное дело, да. То есть до 39 года, до 40-х здесь была мирная жизнь, то, соответственно, люди умирали и хоронили, но потом, к сожалению, пришли нацисты, пришли Холокост этот весь устроили и, к сожалению, ну, разграбили все это дело. Но были неравнодушные люди, которые эти плиты поприносили, понаходили. Есть реставраторы, им тоже, они занимаются реставрацией, то есть определяют текст, что здесь написано, да, и создают каталог сначала онлайн, чтобы родственники могли найти своих умерших, своих каких-то родственников, которых, может, не знали где, и вот приехать сюда, отдать им какую-то дань уважения и памяти. Этот проект очень важен, он служит памятью для будущего поколения о ужасах и страхе и всего, что пережили и евреи, и все жители и города Бреста, и, в принципе, всего мира, и чтобы никогда в жизни не повторились ужасы войны, ужасы Холокоста, и то, что все-таки нужно жить в мире и согласии. Отдельная благодарность за этот проект британской благотворительной организации The Together Plan и ее директору Дебри Брунерс, а также Иудейскому религиозному объединению и его председателю Артуру Лившицу. Благодарность городским властям и лично мэру Сергею Николаевичу Лободинскому, а также всем неравнодушным людям, которые приняли участие и принимают участие в этом историческом проекте.
I think that's rather wonderful to hear from Pavel and to have the opportunity to have him as part of this presentation. So just coming back to our marathon or our walkathon or whatever it is that we're going to be doing, we're going to be sending you out some more information shortly. We're just preparing our fundraising pages. But as you can see here, a walk can be anything. It can be a walk in the forest, a walk in the park. It can be, a walk around the block. You can set your own distance. You can choose your own pace, and you just need to register and set up your fundraising page and then share it with people and ask them to sponsor you. It's that simple. And as I said, it can be done between now and June the 8th. And on June the 8th is when I will be doing my marathon because I need 13 weeks to train. I will be blogging on my training. So, someone needs to mute. And I will be sharing my training with you, so you can all feel my pain, and sharing my sights of London as I train. And hopefully people will be getting behind me to help raise the money that we need to get this project over the line. So I hope that you will join us and take the final steps to make history together. As I said, registration opens March the 1st, and we'll be in touch. And this week we'll be sending you the recording of this presentation along with various links that you'll be able to read and share. So do help to spread the word. So I'd like to invite anybody to ask us any questions. Do unmute. There must be some questions.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's Deb Bogola in Illinois. Just a question on the back to the cemetery question, and just any update on the removal of that track that's on the cemetery. That I know it's a process, but is there any change in that?
Arthur?
Well, it requires, potentially, yes. I had this conversation with the municipality before starting the project, and we agreed that we will do the lapidarium first, and then we'll come back to the question of the running track. Obviously, it requires funding. It requires investment. Even to make it a park, it requires a significant amount of money invested into this. So that's for the future. but it would be nice not to have the running track over the Jewish cemetery. So we hope that one day we'll be able to do it.
One step at a time, literally.
Right, right. Okay, thank you.
It's an aspiration, let's put it like that.
It just breaks my heart every time I see that. And it's
Absolutely.
but
I'd like to ask a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we'll go to Helen and then we'll go to
Oh,
Stacey.
Okay. So hi, my name is Helen Shari Motro, and I'm in Israel now, and I'm a descendant of people from Brest-Litovsk. I'd like to know, please, when you mentioned the very sad part after you had started collecting the tombstones and then they were moved in a very ugly manner, who moved those? That's my first part of my question.
Arto, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't think it's the question who moved them. It's the question who didn't move them properly, I would say. For a long time, we've been supporting the local sort of Jewish community, and one of the leaders of the community is supporting to look after the stones. And we had plans for the memorial some time ago, and there were different things happening throughout the history of the past decade, where we sort of were trying to raise the money and couldn't, and then COVID, etc. Because the stones were collected and stored in one of the sides of the Brest fortress. And we had it was started by Arkady Blecher, who was the chair of the Jewish community for years, since beginning of 1990s. And then one of the communities and all the leaders of the communities, she was looking after the stones, and she was in charge. And when the municipality started to do the reconstruction on the site of the cemetery, they asked to move the stones to a different area, and actually they even provided the space for the stones. But the leader of the community refused to move the stones, and it was quite a long saga where they were asking to remove the stones again properly, because they are not in the possession of the stones, and they don't know how to do it. Maybe they didn't want to touch it because it's a Jewish headstones, and they've asked for a long time, and nothing was happening. And we didn't know about this, unfortunately, because there wasn't the time when we were cut off the project and the headstones. And then the decision was basically because they had to reconstruct the fortress, and they couldn't do anything without it, so they had to remove the stones. And obviously they were removing the stones, and some of the stones, during the removal, because you have to prepare for the removal, it's a precious things, the stones, and basically they moved it in a way that they've just moved it from one part to another. And obviously some of the stones were broken, some of the stones were in bad shape. So and then we only found out about this, and we found those stones in the warehouses of the local municipality. So I would say it's not. It wasn't moved properly, but again, as I said, the problem was that the person who was supposed to take care of this didn't take care of this, and that was the problem.
So thank you. That leads me into the second part of my question. I hadn't thought about the Jewish community there, but what kind of assurances would you feel that you have after you've completed the cemetery project, that the municipality will fulfill their part of the bargain, which I understand you had said were the roads and the pavements and the upkeep, I guess, maybe the forest, I don't know. And how can you also rely on the Jewish community in Brest-Litovsk? I think that your charity all over the world is full of people who are very committed. How committed do you think are those other two bodies, the municipality and the Jewish community? And are you going to keep maintaining your ties with that?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, indeed. So first of all, we have an agreement with the municipality, with the government, and it's in their plan and it's even in their budget to basically do the landscaping around. And they do understand that by having a very beautiful piece in the area and leave the area as ugly as it is now, with the roads, that simply is not possible. So according to the agreement, they are starting their part in April, March, April, where they're going to start, because they couldn't start before that because we are making the central space, and we needed those roads to bring the construction material and to initiate the initial work. So I'm pretty confident in that the government will do their part. And again, they're smart. It will bring people, visiting Brest. It will bring tourists. It will bring additional to the economy of the town, which is very obvious thing that they're smart. They're smart. They understand that. And again, this project has been through so much pain through the years, and it's already time to finish it and to put the end to I would say, the wandering stones that have been moved from one place to another, that are being destroyed. I think it's time to just put them to rest in a place where they belong. So I'm very much in contact with the municipality. I'm very much in contact directly with the mayor, and we are talking on a regular basis. And I'm very confident in that they will do their part, and actually they will maintain the memorial after we finish it. That's on them, because this is the state land and it belongs to the city, and they, according to the law, have to be maintaining it. That's how we've put it in the agreement, and that's how the construction is actually happening. With the community, there are several communities. There are several communities in Brest. There's a recently, well, not recently, for already I think 6-7 years, there is a wonderful Chabad rabbi that has started reconstruction of the synagogue in Brest. Basically, he has created a center, the Jewish religious center there, where all the people go and where all the religious life is happening. And we do have a very, very good communication with them. And we do have our community, as Deborah mentioned. I'm a chair of a Jewish religious union, and we do have our community in Brest as well that is also looking after the project, and they are those two communities are very much in touch. They use the building of a synagogue, and they help us in researching the historical component. They're helping to sort of look after the construction as well from the community side, and I think the community will stay involved, and especially the religious community, because as we all know, for the religious people, the cemetery is quite important, and as we mentioned, it's still a cemetery. And I've already spoke with the rabbi. I've seen him recently at the other event in a different city, and he's very excited, and he will join us to help to complete the project, to open it properly, and to look after it properly from the religious angle. As well as we have other NGOs and other sort of charities in Belarus that are quite interested in this, and that quite excited that such a memorial is being constructed, and it brings sort of the level of a Belarus religious, charitable NGOs to a completely different level. And it's basically is putting Belarus back on a heritage map with having this memorial in place.
We have another question from Stacy Kadosh.
I was wondering, the stones themselves, they belong to a dead body that once was there. Have you contacted anyone, if anything is legible that you could read, have you contacted any of the families to say that we have we have the stones and we're going to use it in our project? And also, you said that you're going to put small pieces on the top where you're going to sit on them, like halachically. Is that is I don't know the rules. I'm not a super religious Jew, but I know that there's some sort of rules about these stones and that they have a name of a person. And you're going to put, did I hear you correctly to say that you're going to be sitting on, you're going to put them on
No,
the,
no, no, no. They're going to be on the tops of the walls, but in the niches there'll be benches. So people won't sit on the tops of the walls. They'll be too
Yeah,
high. Yeah,
yes,
they'll be too high to sit
the
on.
pieces that, okay, so basically, let me give you an idea of the way it's going to work. Any headstone, even broken one, half size, quarter size, if there is a visible writing on it, it will go into the mount and it is going to stand, whether it's broken or it's whole or it's different shape, it's going to go back and stand. Now, the pieces that are unreadable, that we can't really read anything on them, or there's part that we can't read what the stone is, they will go on top of the walls, but not in the sitting area, on the area visualizing. So people can walk and they can look at the pieces. So that nothing is going to be, I mean, we're working with the very high galactic authorities in London, a very sort of high up in this world rabbi who is responsible for
Rabbinical court.
It's a rabbinical court, yes, and they're looking after this as well. So we're trying everything. Everything is processed very kosher.
In answer to your first question, it's very difficult, obviously, for us to find everybody who has a connection to Brest. What we are doing is we're putting things out on social media. We want to reach out to people. The catalogue is available, and tomorrow I'm going to be sending out various links, the links to the films that you've seen, links to the articles that we've produced, the media articles, and also a link where you can reach the catalogue. Now, you have to appreciate a lot of these gravestones are broken, so not everything could be read off every stone. So everything that they could read, they did. And what we did, and I mentioned it in the talk, but what we did when we were trying to find people from Brest to come into the crowd so that they would help us with the crowdfunding, was I went onto the Family Finder page of Jewish Gen for Brest, and sort of everybody who had been active for the last 2 years, up to sort of the end of 2023, we contacted them. We sent a message and we said, we're doing this project, we'd really like to know if you might be interested, and those people who responded, we then invited them to come to a talk, and we then were able to share with those people the catalogue. And one person did actually say to us, "You found the gravestone of my great-grandmother," which was unbelievable. And he said, I had no tangible link at all to her, and now I know that her gravestone is going to stand. So, and he can see it and he can read it. So that was really special. And we want more people to make those connections. And I'm hoping in time they will, because there are a lot of people who have connections to this cemetery around the world. And it's just a matter of time before they find us. And slowly they are coming to us and finding us and finding this project.
Nice. How many Jews are in this area?
Artur?
Well, I think the community is around 600-700 Jews. The active community that attends services and comes to the shul, probably around 150 people.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there's some
Yes,
other
Katie.
I missed a little bit of what was saying about the catalog. Is it available that you can see names on there? How do you get to it?
I will, hang on, if you hold on, I will send a link. Hold on. Give me a second. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
But let me show you while we're here.
Do these gravestones go further back than the war years? Do they go back further?
Yeah, they go back to 1800s.
The 1800s. Okay.
So I'm just going to share my screen again, and I'll show you where you can get to this, but I will also put it in the chat. So on our website, there is a page which you can get to through the menu at the top. So where it says Our Projects Heritage Brest-Litovsk, you come to this page, and it talks about the project, progress so far. You can click to get to the articles, which are all here, and then the different phases that we've been through, which I talked to you just now. And here in phase 1, it says photography, reading, translation, and cataloguing. And when you click onto that cataloguing, you get to this little form, and you just need to fill it in your name and your email, and then you get sent the catalogue. Now, I'm going to just put that in the chat, which I'll do in a second. But the catalogue, actually, I've got it open here. When you get it, will look like this, right? So it is hosted by the Foundation for Documentation of Jewish Cemeteries in Poland. Remember that this used to be in Poland. But you will see that in a lot of the on a lot of the lines, there's very little to be read because. But at the end is a little thumbnail, which if you click on, you see the image that we created, right? So this information is there. Now there are 25 pages. Yeah, see 25 pages, and you can go from page to page of these names and the information that we managed to get, and you can literally click on every single piece. And some of them are really tiny pieces, and some of them are bigger. But it is these are the remnants, these are the salvaged remnants of these gravestones that have been on a very, very long journey. And if you read the articles, which you can get to, and we'll send you a link tomorrow, you will understand more. That there are various talks that we've given in the past, and there are recordings of them, of how the cemetery was lost. But in a sort of a shortened version of it, the Nazis started to clear when they invaded in 1941, they started to clear the cemetery, the graves out the way, because they put their listening devices on the land before, so they could hear the incoming planes. We know that from eyewitness accounts from a man who's written a book, that there were Cossacks who were collaborating with the Germans, who were robbing the graves. So they were also damaging the graves and starting to destroy the cemetery. And then there's a whole amazing story in Brest, but there was a colony of new build houses essentially that were built by the American Joint Distribution Committee in 1921, after the First World War and after the Russian Revolution, to help rehome a very, very damaged Jewish community. And there were a lot of orphans, and though this new suburb, which was called the Felix Warburg Colony, it was sort of wooden houses, and one of them was an orphanage for Jewish children. When the Nazis invaded, they obviously killed the Jews, as we know, and they turned that into a prisoner of war camp for Soviet prisoners, except they didn't treat them with any respect as prisoners of war would be. They starved them. When the Red Army pushed back and retook Brest, they turned that colony into a prisoner of war camp for the Germans. But by this point, the sanitation was so terrible that they ordered the Germans to go over to the what was left of the Jewish cemetery, take the gravestones, and use them as paving around this prisoner of war camp. Now, years later, in 2014, when I was there and I took those photographs that you saw, we visited this place, and there were still some of those houses still standing. They were derelict and they were due for demolition. And they were, and that was actually near where the supermarket was, where I took that photograph. We were able to get into the sort of area that was all fenced off because they were about to demolish these houses, and we found more of these gravestones. So some of these gravestones that had been used as the paving around the prisoner of war camp, we found. Not all of them, I'm sure there are, some we missed, but some of those we managed to find and collect. And I have photographs of all of that as well, and it's in another talk that I give. So it's got the most amazing story of how this cemetery was lost. And all of this, once this memorial is built, we'll be able to, start telling this story in a much more public way. So
Thank you.
That's all right. I hope that was interesting and helpful. Any more questions?
I had
Deborah.
another. First, I just wanted to add to the earlier question about how well things would be cared for by the community. And when we were there, I see Elise Friedman is also on there. The two of us were in a group together in Brest, and we were taken to many other memorial sites, and the community members were the ones taking care of those memorials. They cared so much, cared very deeply for, they had great respect for those memorial sites. And I believe that would continue with this site as well. So I just wanted to add that we got that feeling and assurance from many of the communities. This was in 2005. But I also wanted to ask is there any existence of a list of who had been originally buried in the cemetery?
Unfortunately not. We do have our researcher looking into this because a lot of archive documents were destroyed during the war. Some of them are in Poland, some of them are in Belarus. We're trying to get the lists of the people who lived and kind of died basically in Brest, but it's very difficult because there are no such lists, there are no such documents exist. So it's a really difficult and detailed work. The only thing we can really understand from the headstones catalog that we have. We definitely know that Rabbi Soloveitchik is buried somewhere at this cemetery, but we don't know exactly the place where he was buried.
One of the things that I would add is that some of you may not know is that we at the Together Plan, we run an archive search service. So we help people to find records, ancestral records in the Belarus archives. So Vasily, who is here with us, he manages that for us in Minsk, in our office in Minsk. So he is our expert, our go-to on this. But that, when we do that work, we do find out a lot of information for people. So for example, we do a lot of people's research for Brest, and where we do find information, and we have a very, very good archivist there, and there is a very good archive there. So often information can be found that way, when people died. So we, can probably assume that those people would have been buried in that cemetery. I mean, it may not always be the case, but certain things can be found out through the archives.
Okay. And we did find when we were there, we went to the archives, they took us and showed us the Brest Ghetto passports, of course, which was found 4 of my family, my Bubby's family. And so we know they were there. We know, that exists. We just haven't found any list going back, at least at the time, of who earlier had been buried there. So
sadly, okay. That's very frustrating. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
I mean,
I had one, Deborah. It's probably more for Artur. Is there much local media about the project in and around Brest or in Belarus more generally, and what's the sort of the non-Jewish community reaction? Is is a sort of a broad awareness of the project?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's a collaboration project between us, the community, and municipality. So there's a lot of information out there, and there is media coverage as well. And we are planning closer to the opening, to have a media coverage as well. Belarus historically is the place where Jews and non-Jews lived side by side, and as I always say, that any Jewish heritage of Belarus is not just a Jewish heritage; it's a Belarus heritage for everyone. People are, non-Jewish community is very interested in the project. They find it really amazing. As you've seen from today's presentation, our coordinator in Brest is not Jewish, but he's so much involved, and he's actually so interested in the project. Besides sort of the technical part, he's also on the side of a historical part. He's very interested. Pavel, who's a blind boy, he's not Jewish. And we have, other people who are kind of involved in the project who are non-Jewish. So I have to say there is a huge interest from a non-Jewish community. There is support from a non-Jewish community. It's, people, first of all, the non-Jewish community, they don't understand what's happening. I mean, as soon as they will find out and see this beautiful piece of art, I have to say, this is not just a memorial, it is a piece of art. They will be blown away by what they're going to see and what they're going to have in their town. And then they will go back to their history, and they will start researching and reading about this, not just in Brest, but I'll always talk to other people around the country. I tell them about the project. They're very interested. As I mentioned in other presentations, Belarus is probably today the safest place for the Jews to be in, I have to say, compared to the rest of the Europe, especially with all the sort of politics around Israel, etc. So it shows the attitude of a non-Jewish community, of government. There is an interest in this project on the level of Republican government as well. And it's any heritage project, any heritage points is quite sensitive for the municipality and for people. So and it's very well respected in the country, I have to say. Whatever talks about the history and the heritage is taken very seriously, and this project is part of it. So especially because there's a lot of talks about the genocide during the war, about the Holocaust. That's also one of the things, because it's not just a memorial to the cemetery and to the people whose cemetery was destroyed. It's the memorial to the whole Jewish heritage. It's a memorial to the Holocaust. It's a memorial to the Brest ghetto. So it's not just about the cemetery. It is. It's the idea is to bring cemetery back where it belongs, but the concept is about the Jewish heritage and the history of the town. So yes, Deborah.
I was just going to add, because I think what's really important is you have to remember that after the war, and Neil, you know this, you're very well read in this field. Stalin said there was no Holocaust, and all of the suffering of the Jewish people within the Soviet Union was suppressed, and Jews had to either go silent or write anything that they'd witnessed secretly, or they couldn't talk. It was only really in more recent years, and we've already translated and published 2 books about survivors of the Minsk ghettos telling their stories, that this is now coming into the light. So as a result, we're only sort of 30 odd years past the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Soviet Union, where people, particularly younger people, older people kind of know but kept quiet. The younger people don't necessarily know their own history of their own country. They want to. And for example, a very good example is that in 2019, I took a group of young people, young adults, and we traveled around Belarus. We were actually, we called it our trailblazing trip because we were sort of showing young people the extent of the Jewish history in Belarus. We had Belarusians with us, we had people from America with us, we had British students with us. And we took a cameraman who films for the Belarus television with us around the country. Now, he was a young man, he was born in Minsk, grew up in Minsk, and is, very knowledgeable. But everywhere we went, we were looking at Jewish sites, we were interviewing ghetto survivors, we went to Brest-Litovsk, which is the massacre site in the Brest region, and we went to Slonim, and he saw things that he didn't know about. At the end of the week that we were there, he took me to one side and he said, "Can I make 2 versions of your film? I won't charge you." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I'll make the film that you want of you sort of traveling around." But he said, he said, you've like opened my eyes. He said, "I didn't know so much of this. I'd never heard a survivor speak. I didn't know about the Minsk ghetto. I didn't know this, and this is my country." And he said, "I'd really like to make a second version of the film that includes some archival footage and it enables me to sort of explore more about the history of the Holocaust in my country, because this is new to me." And I said yes, and he made us a second version of the film, which is an amazing film. It's actually on our YouTube, but I'll happily send it to you. And it really was it was very revelatory, if that's a word. It really sort of showed us that the work that we're doing is incredibly important for the Belarusians as much as it is for the people outside of Belarus.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? So I think on that note, we will be sending you out this recording, hopefully tomorrow. We'll be sending you various links. I will try and include that film as well, because it's a really interesting film, now that we've talked about it. And I hope that you will get behind us and join our final push, so we all take some steps together wherever we are in the world. And I will be sending you more information about that shortly when we launch the campaign on the 1st of March. But as I said, we've got between 1st of March and June the 8th to do our walks. So I'm absolutely delighted that you have joined us this evening. And you know where to find us. If you have any other questions, just drop us a line on email. Thank you very much and good night, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Next.